First Samuel chapter 1 verse 11. And she vowed a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if thou wilt indeed look on the affliction of thine handmaid, and remember me and not forget thine handmaid, but will give unto thine handmaid a man child, then I will give him unto the Lord all the days of his life, and there shall no razor come upon his head. Anna in the temple praying, trusting God to have a child, getting into alignment. Look at verse 15. And Anna answered and said, No, my Lord. So now the priest comes in and says, you are a drunk woman. Don't be coming to church when you drink alcohol, you hear? Don't be coming to church when you drink alcohol. You're a drunk woman. And that was a statement that lacked discretion. The prophet did a wrong judgment. He judged her wrongly. And it is natural for every leader to judge you wrongly. Sometimes, not all the times. No leader ever gets it correct all the time. There are such times when your leader will give you a wrong judgment. And let me tell you something. When a leader judges you wrong, it is a test of your character. We will never know how loyal or disloyal or rebellious you are until there is a wrong judgment coming to you from your leader. That is what will provoke what is inside. I mean, look at it. This is a man of God. Her own pastor is accusing her of drinking. You are drunk and you came to the pulpit. He shouldn't do that. He shouldn't do that. That's not right at all. But also in that is a test of character. Can you imagine the person Jesus called a dog? Have you read about that? Jesus himself called a woman, you are a dog. We don't give the children's bread to dogs. It was a test of her character. Some people will get angry and go on social media. And he calls himself a man of God. If there's something this generation must learn, is to honor the grace of God on men that God has set over them. Because this generation, social media, has caused too much disrespect. We live in very, very perilous times. Very perilous times. People just talk anyhow. Just behave anyhow. The man of God judged her wrongly. You are drunk. Don't be coming to church when you drink alcohol. See how drunk you are. She said, no, my Lord. No, my Lord. No. She put herself in a place of submission. See, I'm a woman of a sorrowful countenance. I'm not drunk. It's just that too much is on me. I'm going through. I'm going through. So much is at stake, man of God. And Anna answered and said, no, my Lord. I, a woman of a sorrowful spirit, I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but have poured out my soul before the Lord. Look at the right answer. She told him, no, sir, please don't be angry. I'm not drunk. Look at verse 16. Count not thine handmaid for a daughter of Belial, for out of the abundance of my complaint and grief have I spoken hitherto. So she corrected the impression without being rude. She corrected the impression that the man of God had without being rude, without dishonoring the man of God. Anger is a bad emotion, and it is pride that inspires anger. Pride. Write this down, every one of you, in capital letters. There is no excuse for bad behavior. Write it in capital letters. There is no excuse for bad behavior. If you're rude, your pastor may look away, but it is you that it will hurt. Your pastor may not count it, he may not note it, he may not record it, he may let it go, he may not take it as anything. But if you're rude, you are the one that rudeness will hurt. Your rudeness will not hurt your man of God. No way. No way. You are the one that your rudeness will hurt. Can you imagine Miriam and Aaron? They stood up and said, Moses, are you the only one that God talks to? All of us have anointing. No? Leave that thing. Are you the only one that God talks to? They spoke wrongly to Moses, and that was the end of it, honey. You know, that was the end of Miriam and Aaron. The next time we see, it will be Joshua. Aaron vanished. Aaron closed his ministry by his behavior. Look at Barnabas, Paul. Barnabas, Paul, Silas, John Mark. Barnabas, Paul, Silas, John Mark. Separate unto me Paul and Barnabas. When they started the journey, we see Barnabas prominent. After a few minutes, Paul took over the prominence, because it is God that appoints people over people. I'm talking about spiritual leadership. Barnabas was the one that introduced Paul to the apostles, because Barnabas was older than Paul in Christianity. So Paul is supposed to follow Barnabas, but he didn't say separate Barnabas and Paul. He said separate Paul and. So that means from the beginning of the journey, the leader has been pointed out as Paul. Even though Barnabas is older, yet we see that within a short while, Barnabas was following Paul. Everywhere it was Paul, 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 Paul. So they went for a missionary journey. And after they finished their missionary journey, they came back, and Paul said, no, John Mark will not follow us on the second one, because the first one we went with John Mark abandoned us. We can't take John Mark. Barnabas said, Paul, I'm older than you in this thing. I am even the one that made people to accept you. Who are you to drive John Mark away? If John Mark is not coming, I'm not coming. So Paul left John Mark and Barnabas and took Silas. That was the end of Barnabas. Read the entire book of Acts. From that separation, Barnabas expired. When you play with supernatural relationships, you may still be alive on earth, but your impact will not be felt.